How's everyone doing today?
Good.
Like to see the time and everything. My wife got this for me. I usually don't wear this because the environment that I'm in is usually hostile. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Edward Cage. You all see my little name tag up the wall. I'm 42 years old. At the early age of 15, I had my first child with my wife. I was 15 years old. I was running with a gang called the 19th Street Crips. I know. People like you, I hated. Not just because you was white, but because I was told that you was weak. So if I seen you somewhere, I'm going to rob you. Point blank. During that part of my life, the only thing that I could focus on was survival. I could not be weak. I didn't know what it was to be weak. Once I was able to get my wife to follow me, she was like, well, baby, what we gonna do? And I said, well, I'm gonna go steal a car, I'm gonna strap it down, take all the parts, and I'm gonna go sell it. But she let me know one thing. She said, how are you going to be able to take care of us? See, at the time I had my son, and what do you mean us? She said, well, this lifestyle that we're doing is not gonna really work. So at that time, I began to get a little understanding of what she was saying, but it was so many of my friends that was going out, they was getting killed, they was getting addicted to drugs, and I didn't want to do like that. And plus, I'm starting to think a little different now because everybody around me is getting killed. So one day, my best friend goes out and shoot up a Subway sandwich shop and goes to jail. That was the last wake-up call I really needed. I went out eventually and got myself a job. Once I got myself a job, I'm working in Clayton, downtown Clayton, and I'm seeing all these white people come in with their ties, dressed like Mr. Mason, dressed like a few of you other folks, their ties, and I hated it because I felt that I should have those jobs. I needed those jobs. The white man has taken the jobs because of slavery. It's slavery's fault. And then one day after working there about 6 months, there used to be a little bookstore sitting on the corner of Central and Forsyth. I went in one day and I picked up a newspaper standing right next to this little white, he had to be about this big, little bitty guy, and he reached over me and I looked at him and I pushed him. And he looked at me and said, what's going on, man? And I said, man, don't you remember blip, 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 reach up over me? And everybody turned around and what the y'all looking at? As y'all see, I'm not one of them guys that likes to bite my tongue because I don't believe in that. You know, after I snatched the newspaper and everybody went off about their business, I picked up the newspaper or the magazine. I opened it up and I realized that I couldn't read. Couldn't read. So me getting mad at him was just the opposite side of what I was trying to express. I couldn't read, I couldn't write, I had a child, my wife was pregnant with another one. That right there was the pinnacle of my life. I had to realize one thing, I had to hurry up and grasp to myself, you're gonna have to do something. So at that time, I began to read, but then I got trapped. I got caught up by a guy that was in the Nation of Islam. And when you know, I'm angry, I'm young, I'm black, and I'm mad at everybody. He scoops me up, brother, the reason you're so mad is because the white devil did this to us back in blah, 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 blah. Who cares about the time? And I'm like, yeah, you're right, brother, it's their fault. It's always, their mentality that they was feeding me was always your fault. Your fault. Your fault. It wasn't my fault because I couldn't read and write because I was out there acting like a fool. It was somebody else's fault. They scooped me up and they taught me. It's always the victimization of Black America. No matter what went on, it was always somebody else's fault. That's right. So folks, they ask me, well, how did you end up getting out of Islam? Well, I got out of Islam simply. My wife got pregnant again. So I had to go get a third job. It's not like I woke up one day like, ooh, man, I got this epiphany, Jesus, and I'm ready to walk away from Islam. I walked away from Islam because I was exhausted. You know, I had 3 jobs. I had to walk from one end to the other city. But in the midst of all of this going on, I started to read more. I started to come up and start to understand. And once I learned that once I was able to read at a 3rd grade level, I've never voted Democratic again. And it shocks people because folks are trying to figure out, what was you raised in? Well, I was raised down the street from the projects. I never lived in the projects, but I sold a lot of drugs in the projects. But I come from amongst them same people. So folks, they're so confused of how I came about this change. I came about this change from simply reading my history. See, school teaches black kids that history is always somebody else. When I used to go to school and see a picture of Frederick Douglass, I thought he was the old black dude with a gray fro. I had no idea who he was. Matter of fact, I couldn't even pronounce his last name until I learned how to read. Once I started to read my history, it lets me know that, yes, civil rights, we needed that, but I don't want affirmative action. I don't need for you to come around and say, oh, you little black boy. I don't need that. All I need for you to open up the floodgates. Let me be able to teach my kids to compete against your kids, not special handouts. That's not what affirmative action is. That's exactly what they want you to think. As I began to go along in my life, I began to teach this to my kids. I eventually married my girlfriend, which is my wife. We went on, and at that time, the Lord saved me. He saved me. He saved, not only did he save me from the streets, but he saved a lot of you all. Because I was on that, yeah, saved you guys. But as I became a Christian, I started to read the Bible. And as I began to read the Bible, I began to understand it. The Bible said that the Holy Ghost will guide and lead you into all truth. And I said, Lord, I wanted the truth. And as I began to read and study and understand what was going on, I became a preacher. And now that I'm a preacher in St. Louis, when I hear a preacher say something that's, I used to sit down and just put my head down. I live by a different creed from a lot of people. I live on a wish. I wish you would get up there and say something wrong and expect for me to just sit down and not say nothing. I have been known to stand up and confront these pastors and let them know that this is wrong. I have known to stand up in front of these pastors when they have these liberal politicians come in and say, the big bad white man is going to take something from you. They're going to take what you have. I stand up. This is what America needs. They need men like me that is not afraid to stand up and tell people when they're wrong. You have liberal society now, and you also have a Democratic Party. I call it black church pimping. All this month, they've been going up and down 270. 270 and 170 is kind of like the corridors that go around the city. All these politicians, the Lacey Clays, the Claire McCaskills, they go up and down here and they find the biggest churches that are full of African American, and they go in and they say, we're trying to help you. If you're trying to help me, let me help myself. I don't need for you to come in and say, well, here go a little bit of something. I have a son that I had to teach this type of responsibility that, hey, if you want something, you have to go out and get it. Not wait for somebody to come and get it. Give it to you. So now that I have these 3 kids, folks, oh, you don't have no grandkids? No, I wish one of my kids would go out and get married. And that is what I want them to do. But I wish they would go out and accidentally get pregnant. I've taught my kids that there is no such thing as accidentally getting pregnant. Unless you rolled over in the middle of the night and accidentally fell on an unprotected, or accidentally fell in an unprotected. Don't come to me with that. And I don't preach this whole type of liberal thing. Well, if they do give them come, no. Folks, I've learned in this journey that I have to stand on my principles. I can't expect for someone to come in and teach this. Well, if it goes this way, then it's always this. Folks, we have the truth. We know what's wrong. We have to stop being so weak and so willing to back down. Because if we continue to back down, we will lose in 2016. But we have to stand up. We have to stand, no matter how bad things, and stop being afraid of the race word. Stop being so afraid of them calling you racist. They call me Uncle Tom, Sambo. They call me things that was 30 years before I was even born. I had to look up some of the things. What is that? But I've learned early in this life, I was a conservative, folks. 20 years when I couldn't read, when I was starting to figure out things, when I used to go back to my friends like, hey man, hey, Look at what's going on in the neighborhood. Everybody I knew voted the exact same way. We all went to the same schools. We all ate the same. But one thing that we absolutely all had in common, our parents all voted the exact same way. And nothing had changed. I remember going home to my wife. I said, babe, well, I just came down from seeing one of my friends and the neighborhood looked horrible. Something is not right. And she looked at me, she said, well, what do you mean? Everybody I see is on drugs, strung out, alcoholics. Something has to be wrong. It's the education system. Young black kids now are not taught how to read and write proficiently. But these are the same politicians that they go and they put in time and time and time again. This has to stop. And they need folks that that's going to stand with them, not compromise with them, folks. When we see school systems like Normandy, Normandy used to be a suburb in St. Louis. It's more like a death trap. When we see communities like this that are starving for the truth, folks, we have to go in. But let me explain the we. You all can't go in because they won't listen. I can go in. Send me. If you want somebody to go in and take over Normandy, give me the resources that I need and let me loose. Because when it comes to it, I'm 6'1", 300 pounds. And like I said before, I live on a different creed. I live on the wish creed. I wish one of them would come up and try to push me out of the way. You all would be asking you all for some bail money. But then send me. I'll go in and get it. I got into it with the St. Louis chapter of the Republican Party, blah, blah. They had a whole bunch of names and people on them. If you would have just sent and aggressively promoted Romney. I know some folks may not like him, but aggressively went out to the black community and just got 8 to 10%, we would have won. But you know what they told me? Oh, well, I don't think, we should go in there because the pastors. Let me deal with the pastors. I would deal with them, and I would deal with them very aggressively. I don't care about their feelings, and I don't care about their emotions, and I don't care about Sunday morning mass. I will go up and I will disrupt everything if I have to. Because I am tired of sitting down and looking at our country die. It is completely in darkness. The Bible also tells that a nation who God is the Lord is a blessed nation. Blessed is the nation who God is the Lord. When we continue to turn our back on the Lord, we can't continue to expect His blessings. So how are we going to say that we're a Christian nation, but we're turning our back on Him? And when we see something wrong, conservatives, we turn our head like everything is wrong. So we're going to have to stand and we're going to have to fight. If they call you racist, say thank you very much. Get you a banner. But don't back down. Don't let them get to you. Do you know how many times I've been called a nigger by my own people? Every day. So stand up, folks. Don't let it get to you. Stand up and fight. Is there any questions? All right. My daughter works at one of the hotels in one of the other suburbs on the other side of Ferguson in a town. And she told me, she said, well, Dad, those guys are coming in. And the way the hotel is designed, they have the block on the left, the right corner of the hotel. They have the 4 rooms on this side and 4 rooms on that side, the exit door. No one deals with them but the MOD, the manager on duty. When they check in, the manager on duty is the only one that can check them in or check them out. And after 3 or 4 days, they rotate, a new group come in. When the rental car companies rent them cars, they bring them the cars to the hotel and parks it on the end so that people won't see them coming and won't see them going. But people, this is being fanned by liberals. I got into it with one of the pastors because they say, well, Minister Cage, we need for you to come in and we're going to lock arms. And I said, well, I have no problem with locking arms. We're going to pray. Yeah, we're going to pray. We're going to have the Nation of Islam. We're going to have the New Age Black Panther Party. And I said, oh, no, you're not going to have me. I have the truth and the light. I am not locking on to ask. You never seen Jesus Christ go to the Pharisees and the Sadducees and say, come on, y'all, we all got to get it together. No, that's not going to happen. So we're gonna have to stop that foolishness. I'm not standing with them. Go ahead.
Quick question. You're great, and God knows we need more people like you. How many of you are there?
Yeah.
More than you think. I mean,
There's more. Right now, there's a eagerness to hear people like me. One, because you have so many angry black people out there now that are so fed up with the Democratic Party, but they don't know. Because they're slaves. They don't know. So now is the time to go in and send me and we'll go get them. Got so many questions, I don't know if you can answer.
Let me get our table, our booths got to come back.
I just want to make one little quick point about Ferguson. What month did that happen? July, August?
It happened in August, I believe.
Yeah, August, right before the midterm elections, right? Trayvon Martin happened in August, right before the midterm elections.
Yeah.
They love opportunities like that.
I just have a
They know
question.
they created it.
I just have a suggestion. You ever hit a man with a 9mm on him?
In 1952.
We have no more time for questions, but come out to our booth and learn anything more about this, and also find out where he's located, how to get a hold of him.
Yes.
We have to send the warriors. There are more like him. We all know who they are, but we got to send him to the Goliaths. Thank you very much.